Y'all ain't ready for this one. I
You
can
know,
promise you, you are not ready for this podcast today with the finest of Dasarte himself. You got two D1 athletes play football. I'm going to chop it up about business and financials and whatnot, but you're just really not ready for the energy that's going to be brought today. So, hey, man, how have you been? I know we haven't chatted in a while back when we were at the conference, but how you been?
man, I'm blessed. First and foremost, I'm excited to see you, bro. It's been quite some time. I've been watching you rip it up. Every advisor that I talk to is like, have you seen what Stoy's doing? So salute to you for just pushing the agenda, for being real and authentic and not having any BS in our industry. I really appreciate seeing that. So just wanted to give you your flowers on your podcast, first and foremost. Number two, I've been blessed. Since the last time that we were together, I had a daughter. She is now 7 months old. That tells you how long it's been since we have last linked up. I sold my business, right? And I know we'll talk about that a little bit. Sold my business in August of 2024, started a new one, and I'm working hard on a bunch of new things. So I'm excited to jump into it today.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's back it all the way up. Let's get to
Yep.
know who the hell you are. Where'd you come from? How were you raised? And why did you get into this money game?
Oh man, we could take it back, man. Before I even was born, my family, we're from Liberia, West Africa. My mom's a sweetheart. My dad is a man's man, charismatic, handsome, wonderful, thunderous voice, and just the dude that all the dudes wanted to be like and hang with. My mom was actually born on a rubber plantation called the Firestone Plantation in West Africa, Liberia, where she went to school, learned English, did everything. And on that plantation, Firestone tires, we have them here in America, right? They bought hundreds of acres of land for 10 cents an acre back in the day. And some of the people that worked on that plantation, including my mom, were responsible for getting the substance that are used to make rubber tires. I say in 1978, before Liberia's civil war, my mother came to America where she met my father as a part of sort of this exodus of Liberia because of the political climate. And they had my sister and tons of other sisters. I have five sisters. I'm the only boy and the youngest. And we grew up in San Francisco, California. I'm from San Francisco, California, super rough neighborhood in San Francisco, California at the time, notorious for drugs, violence. Now it's a beautiful area, but back then it wasn't. In fact, my mom tells me the story of our first day buying my childhood home in San Francisco. It was actually the home of a drug dealer. So when they moved in from a 20-story project that was getting torn down, someone knocked on the door and was like, "Is such and such here?" And she's like, "I don't know who that person is." And they're like, "But the car's right there." I'm like, "I don't know who that person is." The person proceeds to light the car on fire, blows up the car in front of my childhood house. So when you think about just where I come from, my parents came from one war in Liberia to another, but here in America they won, and they have five wonderful children. I think my mom said she has 16 grandkids at this point in an abundant life. She recently retired 4 years ago. So, man, as I said before, I'm blessed and I'm looking to multiplying those blessings all 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's crazy. First of all, crazy story. Would you say you're the best of your siblings? Are you the top dog?
I'm the big little brother. I will say that. You know what I mean? I'm the big little brother for sure. I lost my dad in 2003, and him and I are similar in a way that we communicate, in a way that we bring energy. And I think, when my sisters see me, they see him. So there's a little bit of like respect there. And what that experience has been able to do for me is like take risks, man. You get to understand how finite life is super early. So I was 12 years old when that happened. And that grounds you, like this is not a game. Every minute, every day we spend should be in pursuit of something. In some ways, the con of that is like putting a lot of pressure on myself. But in other ways, I've been able to experience multiple lives in this short amount of time. And, I have a really, really long time to go. But, I've been able to do some cool things, write books, be associated with major generationally ambitious companies, sell a company, right? Build another one that's going to be huge. Mergers, acquisitions, equity, all this stuff that if you don't understand time, you really don't. You think you just have all the time, right? And you never move. So, yeah, man, interesting life. And it's just getting started.
Absolutely. So let's start in that career spot. What took you from, and we'll dive in. We're always going to touch on football because that's what we do. But talk to me about, like, you go from being an athlete, a top tier athlete, D1, playing football, to like, why get into this industry? And when everybody listening, when I mean this industry, I'm obviously talking about the money industry. And I'm not just talking about financial planning, advising, because you'll learn that he has other businesses, but really it's the money game itself. What brought you into this game?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to my childhood, and I think you don't understand why you do what you do until, you look back and kind of calculate your steps. You recalculate your steps. So a couple key moments in my life that kind of bring me to this place of being a financial advisor. Number one was when my parents filed for bankruptcy. I had to be maybe 6 or 7 years old, but I was in the office with that attorney as they kind of went through that process. So I saw what it meant to like not have money. And I didn't think it impacted me that much at the time. Just thought mom and dad were in the office, right? Doing what they do. But looking back, that struck me, like obviously something's wrong here in terms of our financial well-being. And I can't articulate or understand why as a child. The second piece is just coming from nothing and losing my dad. When you have five sisters and a grieving mother, it's like, what are you going to do? You know, growing up in a neighborhood like that, you have a choice. You can be of the neighborhood or be above the neighborhood. And my choice was to be above the neighborhood. And I decided to play football as a means to kind of go to school, first and foremost, right? And hopefully use that opportunity to get further and make something of myself. At that time, quote unquote, making something of myself was getting a good job. You know what I mean? But little did I know that would kind of take me into entrepreneurship. So I don't know if that answers your question, but the money game came to me in the sense that I had gone through experiences. I wanted to make my dad proud. And it was the first opportunity that I got out of school to do so. I remember interviewing for like 256 schools. I submitted companies, applications to these companies. And I'm like, one of them has to hit. You know what I mean? Just using that sport ambition to kind of assure that, I can change my narrative. So I got a call back from Fisher Investments. And I didn't really know anything about the stock market despite taking all these business classes and doing all that stuff. It was like my mom didn't invest. She doesn't know if she's going to retire. But they were like, we want you to come work here because this is the best interview that we've ever had and you're hungry. So when I got there, the first account that I got was a guy that was Warren Buffett's friend. Old dude. I think he was born in like 1928 or something crazy. So the way that he built his wealth was Warren was like, hey, I'm buying a factory or something for this company. They're going to break down the freeway to make it more, or build a freeway to make it more accessible. The guy at the time owned a paint company. I need you to paint the entire factory. So he's like, I can either give you cash, and I think at the time it was like $5,000. He's like, I can give you $5,000 cash, or I can give you $5,000 in equity. So the dude was like, give me half in cash and half in equity. So fast forward, the account that I was working on of his was 36 million at the time. And I don't think we were his only financial advisors.
Right.
Tells me the story. And I'm like, what company was that? He was like, it was Coca-Cola. You know what I mean? So that was pretty cool to like hear the impact of what understanding money could do for you. And from that moment on, I was like, equity is the way. I got to figure out how to master this game.
Yeah, and we're going to get into your companies too right now, basically. But it's really cool to hear that story because I didn't know that story before. Even our late nights with our stogies and whatnot, like we didn't talk about that. But it makes a lot of sense of what you've done in your career path now. So let's hit upon what happened last August, right? Let's hit that. You
Yeah.
had your own financial planning firm. You were doing what you're doing there. We talked about the advising roles and things that we want to do, with Dr. Preston Cherry and stuff like that. And it comes down to selling it. So walk us through that path and that whole situation with starting your own firm all the way through, selling it.
Yeah, man. So I go through Fisher Investments and, like a typical athlete, I'm like, man, I need more. Give me the ball. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? And that forced me to, or encouraged me to go out and look for other opportunities. I enjoyed Fisher Investments, particularly because they really use the independence as a superpower. Like, we do things this way, we market this way, and these are the people that we're going to work with. That was the big lesson that I took from that. So I went out, got a job at Edward Jones, crushed it there, grew a practice from 5 million to like 20 million in a few months. Got headhunted by a recruiter, went to HSBC Bank as they were restructuring their wealth management division. First of all, back to Edward Jones, most like human firm you can work at. They're all about knocking doors and being small town heroes from a financial planning perspective. Teaches you how to sit at the table and really, have empathy for people and have that human aspect of advice, which I feel like can sometimes be lost today. HSBC Bank, though, man, different life. I'm getting on a train every week from DC Union Station to New York City Grand Central Terminal. And I'm staying there for a week, working on Wall Street, getting it done. That is all about shareholders and shareholder value. You know what I mean? So I go through these different phases and I'm learning these different lessons along the way. And I just think to myself, like, this is not how I want to run a business. If this is closer to the top than I was at, I can't see myself going any further from here if it's all about shareholder value, if it's all about just, what can I do for my shareholders and not what can I do for the client, the end client. So I went out on my own. At that time, I was turning 25, and I started my firm. And that changed my life. It forced me how to be a responsible adult. It forced me to get creative on client acquisition. It forced me to understand my own taxes, my own financial circumstance. And it taught me about risk, right? We like to talk about risk from a market standpoint, portfolio construction standpoint. But the real risk is like, what are you choosing not to do for a conservative or stable life? And because I took that risk, my life changed.
That's crazy to go through all that, right? And not, I mean, you went from East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, and back, which is hilarious. I don't like East Coasters, so everyone from the East Coast,
Yeah.
I don't like y'all. Y'all are different, and I can't get behind it. Just playing. So you're building this thing, right? And we all you building clientele, working through that. And when we had met like over a year ago, you had talked about it's like, hey, I want to do other things, right?
Right.
You had invested and been part of this, little company called Altruist, which has grown into something amazing too. So we'll hit upon that too. Shout out those guys. But what led to like, hey, I'm building this thing and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to sell it? Was it always like, hey, I'm building it to sell it? Or is it like, this is my career and then an opportunity created itself?
No, man. I thought I was going to be a financial advisor for a very long time. I thought that this was, can you hear that?
Yeah.
You can hear that?
No.
Okay, cool. I thought that I was going to be a financial advisor for a very long time. I thought that, it would last me until my 50s. I thought that I was going to do this forever. But what I didn't account for was the fact that people change. And I was evolving and changing in the process of working and growing my firm. And it really stretched me. So fast forward from HSBC, start my firm. The first 10 months of my firm, I got like 40 households of young professionals in Washington, D.C. I'm blazing. I'm writing blogs. I'm doing everything. I wrote my first book, Dating Benji, at that time, which put me on the radar of a publisher house called Barrett Kohler Publishers. They gave me a book deal. I write the book Young Money. The name of my first podcast, the Young Money Podcast. And it's crazy how my life is just changing so fast. You know what I mean? So a bunch of stuff happened. I'm trying to make the story brief, but a bunch of stuff happened. And I get to the point where I have 2 young kids. I have a wife. I have a home. And this is why you have to really adhere to your why, right? My why for this firm went back to my trauma with my dad never seeing me play a football game. I was an All-American in high school, 50 Division I offers. You know what I mean? My why for creating my firm was to have enough time to be there for my future family. At this time, I did not know I was going to get married. I did not know any of these things.
Right.
But then as I looked around in my life, I'm like, I did what I said I was going to do. I got the house, I got the wife, I got the two kids, but I've also created a job for myself as the solopreneur. I'm on the phones every single minute of the day. I love my clients, but I don't really love the technical aspect of the job. I don't want to create financial plans. I'm sure I can hire out that duty to somebody else, but I don't see myself doing this for the next 10 years, right? So in my mind, after assessing just what I want Dasarte to look like as I did when I was 20, 25, it's like, who am I going to be at 35? I need to build that now to get there. I did that same exercise. I'm like, who am I going to be when I'm 40? I need to build that now. And that was the impetus for me looking for an acquirer for my firm or being open to the idea for somebody acquiring my firm. And I was able to sell to a firm in San Francisco. And it was just a seamless transition.
That's amazing story. Because as business owners, let's go back to the
Right.
entrepreneur side of things. At the end of the day, your real retirement is you sell it to somebody, or you build it a legacy and your kids take over. Like those are the two paths. There is no like half-ass and then do it one way or another.
Right.
And to have that vision and really actually not even the vision, the the wherewithal of who you are as a
Right.
person to say, I built this because of my trauma and what things I went through and why I did that. And guess what? That's changed. And it does with kids and get married. Like things change. And if it
Yeah.
doesn't, I don't know how you got through it, but like, you have kids, those things change. So more power to you on that. But in the meantime, though, regardless of the sale of the business, you were involved with some other things. And for some of our listeners, go ahead and Google Altruist right now. Go right ahead and do that. You were integral to all of that. How did that come about, right? I'm a business owner in my own lane, do my own thing, figuring things out. How do you get involved with the fintech? How do you get involved with tech out of the bloom, out of the womb type of situation?
Yeah, yeah. I want to just talk about that. And first of all, I actually tweeted about this and like wrote about this the other day. If you want to meet amazing people, you have to build amazing things. That is the rule of thumb. A lot of people want to, meet Oprah or something, but they're not doing things that will ever catch the attention of a person of stature and a person of value, a person who's gone out and built something for themselves. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I say that because the biggest risk, quote unquote, I took was starting a business at such a young age. After that, the smallest risks were like putting myself out there, writing a book, self-editing the book. I'm sure I got typos all over that book, but people loved it. You know what I mean? Creating a podcast and inviting people to go on this journey with me. And from that, Jason Wank, shout out to Jason. I love Jason. He's been a mentor, a friend, like changed my life completely. I get tapped to speak at the OG. And if you're a financial advisor, you might remember Wealth Stack Conference. This is pre-Future Proof, pre what we know today. It was in Arizona. So I'm speaking on a panel with some big boys in wealth management. And I'm talking about how I built my firm. Like I did this all digitally. I did this by, working with young professionals. I did this in, as a passion project for myself. And as I'm speaking, the crowd is like silent, bro. They're like so dialed into what I'm saying. It's kind of strange. They're listening to your boy. And Jason Wayne comes up and he's like, hey, I remember this like it was yesterday. It's 2019. He's like, hey, when you talk, people listen. Keep talking. And like, he vanishes in thin air like Prince. You know what I mean? Like he just disappears. Fast forward to like later that year, they had an opening for someone to sort of run their podcast and they tapped me to do it. So that was how it started. It started by me creating a podcast. It started by me sort of sharing the gospel. It started by me sharing, my story and doing it this way and getting the attention of Jason, who was at just serendipitously at that event on that day in our session. I think Altruist had a big Tyrone Ross, shout out to him as well. Tyrone was talking about what he was going to be doing with Altruist at the time. Jason was there to see that. So if it wasn't for, me being in the seat, me creating, none of that would have happened. Jason wouldn't have saw it and I wouldn't have been involved with Altruist. Since Altruist, I've been able to be, an advisory member on wealth.com. I've been able to be a part of an acquisition of a fintech education company called Big Later. I've been able to do a bunch of good things. I invested in Tyrone's company On Ramp, right? And I'm given opportunities to invest in some of the future of finance because I was able to create my world that I wanted to live in. So all blessings, all done with the help of people in the industry like Jason Wink, like Tyrone Ross, like Justin Castelli, like some of these names that you've seen before. But it's been fun to create and create more opportunities.
And that's where I preach all the time. You don't become successful. You are not successful. There's not a richest person in this world without a team, a family, or these connections. It's impossible. Go back to the first guy you had at Fisher, who was, you know, he just painted for some equity, right? And
Right.
look where he's at. It all comes down to who you know and making sure that you have those opportunities. But the thing is, you need to put yourself out there. If you don't, then those don't come about. And the thing is, there are people who will always gravitate to you if you just stick up to your own voice,
Yeah.
right? And I know being black dudes in this industry, it's not easy.
Mm-mm.
But once we learn to just do who we are and speak how we speak, then people there is none of those barriers as much anymore. There always will be, but there isn't as much anymore because it's people really just listen to who you are. Entrepreneurs out there, regardless of your industry, obviously if you're in our industry, listen up more, but regardless of that, just be out there doing what you do, but be doing it loudly because these opportunities that really, yes, might be pertain to your industry. For you, it led to all the other things that are going on. And that's what leads to greater success, greater opportunities, and things that maybe change your career, which leads you to the bench. Like, what is this new thing, right? I'm just learning about it because your assistant emailed and said the bench. And I was like, what email is this? I don't even know what's going on. And I just
Yeah.
a year ago. So talk to us what this is like, right? What's your next venture after selling your advisory firm?
Yeah, you're real quick on what you said just about just being yourself. Number one, authenticity sells. And I think that's something that we struggle with as people of color in the financial services industry, in entrepreneurship. Like, we have a tendency to mute who we are down for the acceptance of others. And actually, it's quite the reverse. Like, if you're able to be more of yourself, people buy that. But people can sniff out a fake any day of the week. You know what I mean? So, in addition to the advice that you gave anybody that's listening to the podcast, be yourself and forget about whoever else cares. This is the No Bullshit podcast. So, fuck anybody else that cares. You know what I mean? If they don't accept you as yourself, you should not be connected with them. You know what I mean? At all, because that's what matters. It's about being yourself, and you carry so much value as your authentic self. So I just want to reiterate that. In terms of bench, one of the big lessons that I learned from like Jason Wink, and I tell Jason, I tweet about this, I write about this all the time in my blogs. Altruist has been my real world MBA, just from everything that I've learned, the serendipity of the connections that I made in investing in certain companies that may have been acquired by Altruist, or everything about it has been my real world MBA. The story about the guy that worked with Warren Buffett and painting the factory and getting the Coca-Cola shares led me to believe that there's one thing that matters, and that's equity as it pertains to finance. If you can build equity, you can change your life. And that is a decision-making process of how to use your resources, your time, your talent, and money to do that, right? So fast forward this whole journey, I got the game, I got the tools, I got the knowledge. The next logical step is to build something of enterprise value that can impact the world. And when you take the step up from serving your small community to having impact on the world, you can imagine that the equity value of that is massive, right? So what I've built with Bench takes me back to the beginning, my first love, football, and my second love, which is creating content. And essentially, what we've built is a platform that is the revenue engine for professional and athletic sports teams and programs to monetize their content and have direct fan engagement. I played at a really big university, and largely most of the content that is filmed never will see the light of day. So when, the alumni club is meeting with the head coach and talking about recruits and they're filming it, it will never be seen, right? But if you're there in person, you'll see it. So we created this platform to allow access to some of the content that gets trashed or is just like a one-time thing to be disseminated and distributed on our platform to alumni bases worldwide, to sports fans all over the place. So you can take the example of like cricket in India, second most watched sport,
Mhm.
no distribution. But by enabling them with bench, any cricket fan can pay whatever their fee is, right? Let's say $20 a month to watch every cricket game stream live, right? That's an example of a real world use case. A big university has 1 million alumni worldwide. They can charge their alumni X amount of dollars to get all of those behind the scenes, those interviews, those player like questions, spring games, things of that nature, stream live, recorded, upkept on bench, distributed, that they can't see anywhere else, right? So having that insight, I built this for, that demographic and also for retail creators, individuals that want to monetize their content more effectively and efficiently. So it's been great, man, to get back in a space when I can really just deal with two things that I care a lot about, content and sports. And, I can see just this global use case that will help us sort of execute on our mission, which is to connect the world through sports. So super excited about it.
Man, that brings so many people in, right? I went to Drake University. We're not big, but as an alumni, you always follow your team regardless,
Right.
forever. The problem is sometimes you don't know how to get to those games. Now, luckily, COVID did happen. ESPN Plus pops up and helps out, but there still is behind the scenes. It's the what's going on in the news, those things that you wouldn't know unless you're in that city or, actually at the university. That's pretty powerful. And then you take it to these global sports. I couldn't even imagine the depths of your cricket, your other types of golf.
Oh, yeah.
Hell, soccer in general in itself out there, like they're able to reach a different spot that they didn't really know was out there, right? You don't really know where all your alumni or your fans are at. You just know that globally there's a lot of them. But if you can reach them directly and it brings revenue not only back to the entity itself, man, that truly is a win-win, right? It has to be a win because you're connecting the two things that they've always been connected, just now there's a direct line. And
Yeah,
not
it's amazing. One of the use cases that, despite all of I don't care how you feel about Elon Musk, you know what I mean? And the antics, but he did something 10, 15 years ago that was crazy. He wrote the master plan for Tesla. And it's essentially in his master plan, he was like, look, we got to build a really high quality product. That was a Tesla Roadster. At the time, it was super hard to get and it was super expensive, right? We got to make this thing expensive, basically, is what he's saying in the master plan. You can Google it right now. He's like, as we sell these things, we'll have a lot of liquidity to make a cheaper vehicle and we'll mass produce this vehicle. That's a Model 3 and a Model Y, right? We'll mass produce these vehicles. We'll make it super accessible for people. And the more we do that, we can decrease the carbon emissions in the world, right? And make the world a more healthy, sustainable place. So the way I see Bench right now in its infancy is saying, hey, we have this enterprise product and retail product. We've already started with 2 use cases. Enterprise is sort of our bread and butter. We make this product, we can go downstream hard where, grandma lives in Florida, but her son plays in Vegas. Her grandson plays in Vegas. She can watch the games on Bench because she's not going to fly from Florida every weekend to see little Timmy play Pop Border, right? So that connecting the world through sports and being, assigned and aligned with that mission is powerful because now people can be closer to their family. They can, commiserate about a thing that they're all passionate about, right? And it's just a beautiful thing. So I got something, bro, and I'm excited about it. I think that it's going to drive a lot of value, and I can see just the feedback from people that are using the product now, and people in my DMs like inquiring about how they can be helpful. These are fingerprints that you see when you're on a path to success.
Yeah, perfect timing, really. Because ESPN and them are failing, in my opinion. Something needs to take place because where we're living right now ain't it. We're missing a lot, so I appreciate on that. But you're an entrepreneur, though. There isn't just always one thing on your mind, and you're not only doing one thing at one time. Is there anything else that you're working on or in the back of your brain that you're slowly working on?
I'm still connected with the Altruist family, so we're working on a few exciting things here, multiple shows to help financial advisors. I think that, through financial services, you can change a lot of people's lives. For me, I had to change my life first. And through Altruist, I can enable a lot of financial advisors to do just that, right? Change their lives and impact their clients in a really meaningful way. So I'm still hosting the Advisor Journey podcast and another podcast that'll be coming out soon. And it's Bench, man. It's bench. We're taking bench to the moon and being able to make sure that we get that going. Of course, I'm on the board and I'm an advisor for a lot of startup companies. Collecting and aligning equity and value in those arenas are super important to me because not only do I get to be a part of growth, but I get to learn and I get to impact from an advice standpoint. So the wheels are always turning. I mean, I'm the typical entrepreneur where I'm collecting domains like crazy,
Yeah.
just in case, you know what I mean?
You never know.
You never know. I actually bought my name, Dasarte.com, the other day because I feel like, man, this would be a magnificent name for a luxury design agency or something, you know? But yeah, man, my wheels are always turning and I'm always looking to, you know, impact, man, impact the things that I touch and turn them into gold.
I love it. I love it. As we get to the end of the day, we always ask this one. Well, we asked two questions, but you already answered the first one. First one was like, what's your first money memory? And we went down your road and how it's turned into what you are today. So we don't need to hit upon that one, but we want everyone listening, regardless you're advisor, not advisor. I don't care where you come from, but ultimately as an entrepreneur, you always get the sense that you're alone and you're trying to build this thing alone and you're just grinding away alone. It's not true. You're not alone. There's a lot of us out there, a lot of resources that can help you network, you get to your next spot. But what is something that you can tell our audience today that they could take today, take what you say, implement, and it'll get them further on their journey?
Create. It's that simple. It sounds big, it sounds hard, but you can create the life you want to live, number one. You can create things that attract amazing people. You can create opportunities for people, right? You can create your best health. You know what I mean? You are first and foremost a creator. Everyone is, right? Lean into that. Because as you begin to create, you change your environment, you change your reality, and you impact the reality of others. So if you want to change your world right now, today, go and create something. Create a workout. You know what I mean? It will change you. It will shift your reality. So that's the biggest thing. More so than an entrepreneur, I think that we're all tasked with being creators. And you can shift your reality by just putting things in the atmosphere and creating.
Create it, talk about it, communicate, let others people know about it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the last part of what we always ask, right? Like, share, comment, all that crap. I don't care about the algorithm. I don't do that shit for the algorithm. I do it because it reaches more people who need to hear it so they can reach out. Because once you start talking to somebody, whether that's tweeting us at Dasarte, tweeting story, coming on podcasts, once you start communicating to someone, telling them your story, what you want to do, people gravitate towards that. That's that next step. That's that next thing that happens. So you are creating, also communicate and let people know what you're doing and be loud and proud about it. Because if not, who else is going to be? Right? Who
Mhm.
else is going to be? So, hey, brother, I appreciate everything that you're doing, showing us the ropes in terms of how to create a business, how to sell it, but also getting involved with the game of everything that deals with money. Appreciate it. I can't wait to catch back up when Bench is global and everyone knows about it, and we can talk even more about that at that time.
Yes, sir. Can't wait. I'll see you soon.